G'day legends, he's back. The cringe lord Israel Adesanya is back. That is what we are going to be talking about in today's video. And I think it's time we started to address this, right? On this channel, what am I doing here? I am just an Aussie guy who is a fan of MMA, and I am sharing my experience of being a fan of MMA with the internet and seeing what happens. That's essentially what this channel is. And during the course of that, I have been asked quite a bit, why don't you like Israel Adesanya? Well, in this video, I am going to highlight from just 2 interviews that he has done in UFC for this UFC 305 coming up, why I dislike Israel Adesanya so much. And I don't think there's anything wrong with liking one fighter and disliking another fighter. I think people forget that this is a sport. And in many sports, sometimes you just don't like a team because they're from the other side of the city, or you just don't like a certain player because he acts like a bit of a smug bastard. And Israel Adesanya is one of those guys for me. So we're gonna go through all the examples of the many reasons of why I cannot stand Israel Adesanya. And I love and hate an Israel Adesanya fight week. From him overselling the hype for his fights and how good he is going to be when he is quite literally the definition of leg kicks from range, to him overhyping his poverty-driven lifestyle in the past when he grew up, and him constantly having these like one-liner bars, like he thinks he's some sort of main character living in an anime TV show. It's just the whole experience of Israel Adesanya fight week. Cringe, melts the skin off me. I get so much third-hand embarrassment from the guy. Third-hand, second-hand embarrassment, whatever. Having said that, I do want to give Izzy some credit because, quite frankly, there are a lot of fighters that could learn a lot from Israel Adesanya. So before I get into the absolute teardown of Adesanya that I'm about to get into, there are 2 things that I really do admire and respect about the guy. Number 1, his ability to counter-strike in the UFC, in MMA, especially when everybody constantly wants to take him down, his ability to still pick and choose his counter-strikes is phenomenal. No one else can do it like Israel Adesanya can do it. And number 2, his ability to constantly call out the next guy and know what is happening next in his career and start to build hype for his next fight the moment the previous fight has just finished is amazing. Spivak, you just had ESPN microphone in your face. Nothing else happened the entire weekend and you had nothing to say. Even if you don't speak English as your first language, you should have something to say to give your translator, to give to us. I pray to the Lord every night that fighters can learn to be as active and as good with their post-fight interviews as Israel Adesanya is. Having said that, and he is good at all that, the rest of everything that he does drives me up a bloody wall, mate. So let's get into it. The first clip that we are going to look at is from his most recent interview on a podcast by the sounds of everybody on that podcast. It's in New Zealand. It's called The Rock. And it's the perfect example of one of those cringy little one-liners that he does to try and make himself seem way more cooler and hardcore than he actually is.
I love that guy. We understand. He says, so what do you say? How do you, brother, rock bottom is as good as any foundation to build on. And I was like, bet, because we know what life is like. So in that year, I've gone through all this in my own challenges, but then I've climbed back. And I do it as a sport sometimes. I hit rock bottom on purpose just so I can climb back out. And
these lines, man, I hit rock bottom on purpose sometimes. That is such a load of absolute garbage. I hit rock bottom on purpose sometimes just to bring myself up from it. You know, who the hell says that, man? This guy's ego is so big. He goes and makes a documentary about himself because he constantly wants to try and create this almost 8-mile narrative story around himself, whereas he's this hard done by guy that has to slug his way to the top and create this real hero's journey story. And he does it all the time. And this is just one of those little lines that he throws out there. And you can tell, like, the moment he says it, he knows that he has said something completely cringe and just tries to blast through it. The problem is, he does it constantly. He doesn't just say something, make a mistake, move on, try and not do it again. He will come up with other cringy one-liners to try and make himself this dude on a hero's journey anime story. Like some sort of Goku fighting his way back to Earth. I don't know. The next clip is the classic Israel Adesanya overselling his fights, overhyping his skills, over talking about what he's going to do, how he's here to take heads. He doesn't care about the belt. He's going to display a new level of skill. You can't even imagine. You can't even imagine how far away he's going to be able to throw these leg kicks. He's going to be able to be, his skill level has gotten so good, he's going to be able to be sitting in the front row and still land leg kicks. That's how out of range he's going to be. Check this out.
The middleweight champion. I'm not looking to do that. I'm looking to take his head off. That's all I'm looking to do. I'm going after him, and this is not wolf tickets. I've been the champion once. I've done it twice. I'll do it a third time. Cool story, bro. But yeah.
When you look at me and
Do you guys remember this fight week? Do you remember this fight week? The Jared Cannonier, I'm the Undertaker fight week? The 7-minute walk to the cage while the Undertaker's music played? This is the moment that I got off the Israel Adesanya train. I used to be a massive Israel Adesanya fan. I thought there was nothing cooler than the Kelvin Gastelum fight before the 5th round when he is on the other end of the cage whispering to himself that he is willing to die out there. From that, I was an Izzy fanboy in his run up. I enjoyed the fight in Melbourne that he had with Anderson Silva. When he had the Kelvin Gastelum fight, I was like, holy shit, this guy is the real deal. The more and more cringe lines that came out, and the more and more performances that he put on, like the Yoel Romero performance and the Jared Cannonier performance, I was done with him. Done with listening to interviews about how you don't care about the belt, you come in and take his head off, I've gone and rebuilt myself, I've become a warrior, I've become a weapon. And then you stand on the other side of the cage and try and pick shots like a mosquito buzzing around. I hate it. And the last one that we're going to listen to is from his TMZ interview. And to me, this is one of the most disgusting things that he does. And he does it constantly. It riles me up so much. I hate it. If you've enjoyed this video so far, before we play that, go ahead and click subscribe. Every single subscriber means so much to small creators like myself. But if you've already been a subscriber and you enjoy the content that I'm putting out, if you could hit that like button, that means a lot. That helps grow the audience of the channel. So if you're already on board with the channel and want to help it grow, that like button means a lot. Now, the last one that we're going to play is from TMZ, and it's about him talking about how he was forced to flee poverty.
I have to take accountability for his remarks. And I'm also glad my friend Razak, Abdul Razak said it before his fight about 3 weeks ago, saying I respect Dricus, but he's a bitch for what he said. He's a bitch because Dricus is saying, I trained in Africa, I do this in Africa. And then people like Razak and myself who are forced to flee our own country because of, a better opportunity.
That is so disgusting how he does that. Talking about how he was forced to flee poverty. I'm going to play you guys another clip.
For Nigeria, fondest memory. To be honest, there was a time because I was quite well off. My family was quite well off in Nigeria, and I wasn't really doing too good in school, and I was getting really bad grades. So my parents made me go.
Israel Adesanya was not forced to flee poverty. He was a well-off, middle-class kid from a well-off family living in Africa. I don't understand why it would be so hard for him to say something like, what Dricus du Plessis said really annoyed me because I was lucky enough to live fairly well off for an African kid, but I grew up in neighborhoods and I saw kids like Francis who had to struggle for everything that they had. And them being able to come out of that kind of poverty is inspiring to me. And I want to use my platform to help share and lift up their stories. And Dricus seems to be making this about himself, where I want to try and make this about the entire African story, how we've all made it. Why can you not say something like that? I know why you can't say something like that, Israel Adesanya, because you are the main character and you must be the hero and you must have clawed your way out of poverty to become the UFC world champion, broken native. It's such horseshit. It is such horseshit. And to me, it would be way more inspirational if he used his story and his platform to lift up the other people around him who did have harder times, instead of trying to take himself and insert himself into their story. It's disgusting. And then he talks about, we had to flee to New Zealand. Do you know what the difference between a refugee and an immigrant is? Because his family immigrated to New Zealand. If you're a refugee, you're fleeing with nothing but the clothes on your back. If you're an immigrant, you're paying a lot of fees to move to a Western country like New Zealand and start a life there. It's very expensive to do that. So yeah, they might have immigrated to another country for better opportunities. A lot of people do that. It's not that big of a deal. But to put yourself in someone else's shoes, in someone else's story, to shine a light on yourself, is something that he's done in the past, where he tries to clout chase poverty because it makes his hero's journey story in his head even grander. They are just a couple of the reasons why I dislike Israel Adesanya so much. He is so hard to put up with on fight week. And every single time he gets a loss in the cage, I love it. I genuinely love it. And he wasn't dominant, you know? He's like 5-7 or something. His record is pretty much 50-50. So this week, going into UFC 305, I do think Israel Adesanya is going to get the win. Again, I think his counter-striking is just better than Dricus du Plessis' defense. But if Dricus gets the win, I'm not going to be upset about it. There you go. They're the reasons why I dislike Israel Adesanya so much. Again, if you enjoyed the video, go ahead, hit the subscribe button or hit the like button. Let me know down there in the comments, where do you sit with Izzy? Do you hate him? Do you like him? Are you 50-50 with him? Are you happy that he's back? Put it down there in the comments. Until then, I will see you all in the next video.